Okay, guys, I deleted the last video of why I use IEC and Iuspk hate white people and Africans, but I wanted to make it shorter this time. It was too long and I kind of didn't make sense. So we're going to try and make it fast as possible and understandable too. So first, right, remember, we must bring this quote up first. Swarthy Europeans, Benjamin Franklin. Alright. And then, alright, so now we're going to do who colonized the United States? Great Britain, right? So it was the British, Dutch, Spaniards, France, Netherlands, Sweden, Russia, right? So the first was Spain and France, then Britain. Did the French and Spaniards who settled and colonized in the United States of America, did they have African slaves? Yes, both the French and Spaniards who settled in the territory that would become the United States had African slaves. Spaniards brought enslaved Africans to North America as early as 1500s, right? French Empire, we gotta read this too. The colonies heavily utilized enslaved labor throughout present-day Florida, as well as southern western territories that became later Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. French Empire, plantation economy. The French relied significantly on enslaved Africans for their colonial expansion, particularly in the Mississippi Valley and the Louisiana Territory. Right? Now, here's the thing. They taught you that white people, right, French people, they taught you that these were the French that colonized America. Spain people, they taught you that these were the Spain. However, that's modern. That has been through historical. When you go to Swarthy Europeans, Benjamin Franklin. In 1751, essay Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind, Benjamin Franklin famously classified most Europeans as swarthy. He argued that the English and the Saxons were purely white, asserting that the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, Swedes, and Germans possessed a darker complexion. So all of Europe was swarthy, right? What color is swarthy? Swarthy animal, right? Swarthy means dark skin. Right? So, right, who's swarthy today? Black Americans, Africans, and etc., right? Now, how does this relate to IUIC, Iuspk? So we learned that the French, Spaniards, and Germans, and then later British colonized the United States, right? And then also the British, we'll do this part too. Who colonized the Caribbean? Spain, Britain, France, and then the Dutch. The Dutch, French, Spaniards, and Britain. Right? All swarthy, right? Why does this matter? It's because IUIC, right? They're being led by, right, leaders. They're being led by Bishop Nathaniel. Who is Bishop Nathaniel? Right? He's from New York. That's Bishop Nathaniel. See his skin color? Swarthy, dark, just like the quote said. Now, Bishop Nathaniel, real name. His real name, okay, it said his real name. His name is Nathaniel Ray. Alright, so Ray surname. Origin. Okay. Hold a second, guys. So Ray's surname, English, derived from the old French word Roy, meaning king. French, right? Ray. So he's, and then Indian, South Asian, a variant of surname Ray, which comes from the Sanskrit term Rajan, meaning king or ruler. So we look at Bishop Nathaniel, last name Ray, right? He's swarthy, dark skin, right? And he has a French last name King. What does Bishop Nathaniel dress up as? A king. He dresses up as a king because that's what he is. He's a Frenchman king. He's a king of royalty. Yeah. That's why he has his organization, because he wants whites to know that he is their ruler and he used to own them, and that he wants them back as their servants and slaves. They make these groups because he wants them back as their slaves. He used to own whites, but he can't own them anymore. So he has to create this organization to get us to join, so he can own them again. But that ain't gonna happen anymore. Remember, the Medes are taking over the world. I gave the world to the Medes, right? So they ain't gonna happen. But right, and then we're gonna do the next person. Bishop. We're not gonna do Connie because it's different. You know, Bishop Iuspk. What are you doing? All right. Iuspk. I don't know his last name. We'll pull up the Black Dutch. He matches the face. This matches his eyes and nose. He got the same eyes and nose. And then he has the same mouth as this person right here. So he's most likely of Dutch. Right? So you got black Frenchman, black Dutchman, right? You know. And then Connie, right? Remember, Edom ruled Europe, right? So we go Edom, Rome, Jewish encycl. Oh my gosh. Jewish encyclo. I'm typing too fast. If I could find, here it is. Go Control F, Rome. So the name Edom is used by Tumists for the Roman Empire, and they apply it to Rome. Every passage of the Bible referring Edom or Esau, Rome under the name of Edom is compared to a boar. And the symbolic name Seir was used by the poets of the Middle Ages, not only for Rome. So these people, swarthy European, they're Edom, right? Therefore makes Iuic Edomites, and to confirm it, Edom is the twin brother of Jacob, means ruddy red. Both are red. You see the redness in the skin a little bit. He is mixed with the Hindu a little bit. That's why he has a straight hair, darker skin, eyelids, right? Because the Ray surname was found in India. If you know was India colonized by the French? Yes, French started 17th century, right? I'm not saying that, he colonized, his ancestors colonized India. I'm just saying that he has a dark skin, so I'm just saying that, right? And then you look at the other Iuic leader, Bishop Connie. He doesn't really look, he's European too, but doesn't really look more. He looks more Melanesian, but when you look at his form, where's his form at? It's hairy. See right there. So that's Edom. Yeah, right. So they're Edom. Remember, Edom ruled Europe and moved to America. Right? They were the French, Germans, Italians, French, British, right? Or some British, right? And they ruled over white people as their slave masters. That's why they don't like them. Let's get to the next one, Iuspk. Let me get to 12 tribes chart. 12 tribes chart. So remember this false chart. So what they're trying to say is, I'm gonna do it quick. American blacks, Judah. Nope. what it is. American blacks are the French and Germans and Spaniards. They owned white. They brought white African slaves and owned them. West Indies black, British, Danish, West Indies, Germans, French. They brought white African slaves and mixed them with indigenous people. Haitians, they are the black French who brought indentured servants, black indentured servants, and had white slaves. Puerto Ricans, mixed black Spaniards mixed in with indigenous people and white African slaves. Cubans, black Spaniards, had white slaves. Dominican Republic, black Spaniards. Guatemala, Panama, black Spaniards. American Indians, those are pretty much either dark-skinned Hamites or Egyptians or Edomite Europeans mixed in with Egyptians. Same thing here, Hamites. Hamites mixed with black Europeans. Black Spaniards mixed with pretty much Canaanites, white slaves, and then Argentina, black Spaniards. They're all, right? So, yeah, we skimmed through that. Now we're getting to Iuspk. Iuspk leaders. The first one, Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. The most founder, General Yohana or John Lightborn, get his name. This is General Yohana. When you look at him, kind of looks like a Judean, but he has his last name is Lightborn. But so we're gonna do Lightborn surname, right? Lightborn, medieval English. Remember, anything medieval is Edom, medieval Middle Ages, right? Now, this could be a Danite because his surname, who lived by a bright, clear stream, light burner, right? Meaning that sounds like Dan, right? But however, the surname Lightborn is common in the Bahamas and Bermuda, so he could be a Duke of Britain, right? So his people most likely owns black indentured servants in the Bahamas and Jamaica, where it could just be a settler who had money. I mean, it takes a lot of money to create stuff like this, so he could, so. But I can't see his arm. So cannot, they hide, their arm and stuff like that. So you can't really see, if they're Edom. Can't find it. So, but now the most popular leader, he's most likely Dan though. But the most popular leader, Captain Tazariak, who is also leader of Iuspk. He's like the known one talking about he don't like white people, hate him, right? You can see he looks like a Judean. Let me just pull up a Judean, right? So you type in Philistine, captivity of the Ark. Dang, I can't even. Right, see the Israelites, see them, they have yellow skin, some red afro hair. They don't show the beard, but they mix them with Canaanites. But he matched that phenotype. There was a picture of him with an afro, but it's on YouTube. I don't feel like going to YouTube and showing it, but you see his braids. He's probably turned afro. His arms don't really have forearm hair on it, so he's probably most likely, there it is. Like, he doesn't have any hair on his forearms, right? He's most likely, and he has the Michael Strahan eyelid fold, and he looks like what's his name, King Khoisan, the Dutchman. Looks like him a little bit. So, And he looks like Michael Strahan and Mike Tyson. But we're gonna get to his surname. Real name, right? It's not gonna say his real name for some reason. I think it shows on here. They had his real name, right? So it showed his real name on Google one time, but it won't. But his real name is Gas. His last name is Gas. So Gas, surname, origin. Gas has multiple origins, primarily Central Europe, the British Isles, so German, Swiss German, Middle High German, Gas, German Gassy. So he's right. So he's German. Now it's kind of hard to explain because it says of Norman origin, variant of gaze from the Old French male gaze, Parisian, former ancient Germanic was, but it says it could be Dutch too. He has the Captain Tazariak has the Dutch nose, right? He has the Dutch nose, but he looks like a Judean. I know that doesn't make sense. How would he look like a Judean if he has a Dutch nose? But you know, so he could be of Dan too, because Michael Strahan, he looks like him too, a little bit. Michael Strahan. I'm not saying Michael Strahan is a Danite, or a Judean, but he got the same eyelid phenotype as Captain Tazariak, right? And we learned that Michael Strahan is related to King Charlemagne. Right? What countries did King Charlemagne rule over? So King Charlemagne in 768 814 ruled over France, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Italy, Austria, right? Pretty much the entire Western Central Europe. And Michael Strahan descends to that. You don't think Tazariak is related to King Charlemagne too? Tazariak has a gap on his tooth too. He has a gap on the tooth. You don't see it right there. He has a gap. If you don't see it, he has a gap on his tooth. Michael Strahan has a gap on his tooth. Right? He has a gap tooth too. So you don't think Michael Strahan is related to Captain Tazariak? You don't think they both come from King Charlemagne? Right? And then he kind of looks like Mike Tyson. The man who has my surname, right? Mike Tyson. You just found out my last name. Got the same look. Tyson surname. At first, I thought it was French, but it could be German too. Norman culture, right? Also has Germanic. Got a Tyson in German. That came from Scandinavia. Mike Tyson looked like Michael Strahan. He got a gap. Tazariak got a gap. So they all are just Germans and French, right? Most likely of Dan. I'm just guessing, But my whole point is, right? All the French and Germans were ancient of Europe. All these black people, the Iuspk, Iuic are Germans and French and black swarthy Europeans who owned white slaves. Right? They owned white slaves. Look at this. 1830, free Negro slave owners. This is the document where you find out all the Negro slave owners. Right? Mostly French and Germans and Irish. This is why they don't like white people, because they used to own them and they're trying to own them again. But it won't work this time. Right? White cargo. Right? White cargo. Slaves, right? Now, let's get to why they don't like Africans. This video is still going to be long, but why don't they like Africans? So, if you didn't know, Shem genealogy. Now they taught you that there was only one lineage of Shem that goes down to Jacob and Esau. Esau being white, Jacob being black. But there's no way that could be true if Jacob and Esau were twin brothers, which means they both were red, black, right, Negro. So what they don't teach you is that there are other branches of Shem, because Shem is the Afro-Asiatic, the Negro. You also had Elam, Ashur, Lud, and Aram. From Lex Will's research, we learned that Elam, the Anshan, the Akan, Awen come from Ghana, right? We learned that the Elam are related to most West Africans. Ashur related to most black Africans. So the reason they don't like Africans is because Africans rule over Edom. That's why. They are the Assyrians. Africans are the Assyrians. Right? The Fulani. Right? So, they rule over Edom. And then you have some Elam. Right? And then you have another lineage we'll get to next video a lot, right? They like to call these people Hamites because they're dark, right? But they're not Hamites. Or to get to they're children of Lot. Nihitic people are children of Lot. Lot mixed in with the Anakim in the land of Canaan and became tall and dark. Alright, we're gonna get to that in the next video. But they don't like Africans because most Africans are of Elam and Ashur, and they helped the expulsion of Edom and Jacob out of Asia, and pretty much all of Shem out of Asia. They helped the expulsion of them, and that's why they don't like Africans. And then some don't like Africans because some Africans sold Israelites into slavery and ruled over them in Europe. But the truth is, they don't like Africans because a lot of Africans are of Elam and Ashur, or mixed with Elam and Ashur, from my reason. So remember, they don't like white people because white people were the slaves to the Iuic and Iuspk 400 years ago, and they can't own them anymore, and they want them back. And they don't like Africans is because Africans rule the world right now, right? Africans rule the world, specifically Elam, Ashur, and the different branch of Edom. And what's happening is Elam and Ashur are making everybody call themselves African, and Edom doesn't. Edom is allowing it because some Edomites are having their own kingdom, like King Eswatini in Southern Africa, But the Edomites in America and Caribbean don't want to be called African because they're not from Africa. They're from Europe. They colonized America. But because Elam and Ashur, who are in Africa right now, rule the black diaspora, they have to call themselves African and say that they were slaves to Africans, even though most black people were never slaves to, never came from Africa as a slave. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that's it.